Hi and welcome to the second video in this series. So now that we've actually managed to establish a connection between the client and the server, and we're able to receive messages from the server as soon as we connect to the server, what we now want to do is to be able to send messages from the client to the server. So because in our case the server is actually acting as the machine, so in our case the oscilloscope, and we're assuming that we don't have any sort of physical access to our server, so any sort of changes that we make to this machine is going to be through the client application interface. So we want to be able to send live messages to our server to make changes to it. So let's implement that, and it's actually pretty easy to implement. It's just going to be like 2 lines. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did here. So the message variable, I'm just going to copy the same thing. So client message, and instead of receiving, I'm going to say I'm actually going to use the input command to get an input from the user first. So say something, and the next thing I'm going to do is send this to the server. So client socket dot send, not client, send, and I'm going to take this message. So client message dot, and remember from the previous video we need to encode this to be able to send it across, because we can't actually just send strings. So I'm going to save that, and so do we have a way to handle that incoming message on the server side? No, we don't, so I'm just going to implement that now. So what I'm going to do is store it in a message variable, client socket dot receive 1024. For now we don't really care about how much we're receiving, and once we receive the message we're going to print it out. So print the client said, and because it's encoded we're going to decode it, TF8, and we want to, and because our client is actually expecting some sort of message back from the server as a response to whatever we send to it, we're going to make sure that we actually send something back to the server. So I'm going to say client socket dot send, and because we haven't yet implemented a command system to make changes to the server, so we know that whatever's incoming from the client is just going to be garbage for now. So for now we're just going to reply with the same reply, and why not be positive in our reply? So I'm just going to say nice. Nice sounds better. And we actually don't want to be doing this in every turn, so I'm just going to put this outside for now. So accepting the connection and welcoming the client is going to be done just once, not every time we loop through this. Oops. Let's say Shift Tab. Okay. Clean this up. Okay. So now I'm going to run this thing. So I'm going to go into View, Tools window, Terminal, and I'm going to create 2 terminals. And in the first one I'm going to navigate to venv main ls, so we have the client and the server. I'm going to run the server first, so server. So now that our server is running, I'm going to try and connect to it. So cd venv main ls pi client. Okay, let's say something hi, and the server said nothing. Okay. And on the server side we have a problem. Oh, we forgot to encode this little positive statement on the server side, so I'm just going to encode that now. Encode UTF-8, and still not happy. Oh, I'm just gonna put a thing here, and that seems alright now. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna do the same thing again. So since we're in the same place, if I enter something here, it's gonna give me an error now because the server is closed. So I'm gonna run the server again. So server is running, and I'm gonna run the client. And now if I say hi, it's gonna say nice. I'm gonna say whatevs. It's gonna say nice again. So it's always positive. The server. It's a nice server. So the next thing what we want. So the next thing what we want to do is be able to connect to any client if there is nothing connected to the server. So we don't want to make our server multi-client application for now because since it's going to be an oscilloscope that we control through the terminal in the future, we don't want multiple users to be making changes to this machine at the same time, because that can lead to unforeseen issues which we don't want. So it can be a feature in the future, additional feature, but we don't want to really think about that now, so I'm just going to make it a single client application for now. But we also want to be able to connect to any client if there is nothing connected to it. So if you're only accepting connection once and nothing's happening after that inside a while true loop, so to connect to a new client, we're going to have to close the server and reopen it, which is something that we don't want. So we want to make it sit in an idle state every time the client is disconnected, and connect to a new incoming client if there is nothing connected. So I'm going to take this whole thing and put it back inside the while true loop. Let's fix the indentation. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is make both of these variables a global variable. So I'm going to say client socket equals I'm going to say it's none. So when it's not connected to any client, this variable is going to stay none. Same with address. Say that's none. And up here, what we're going to do is say if client socket is none, then do all this. So only accept connections from a new client if there is nothing connected to the server. And what we want to do with this message is put this inside a try and catch. So I'm going to tab it out and say try here, and accept. And in accept, I'm just going to say message equals an empty string, and you're going to see why in a minute. And the reason why I've actually used try and accept is because if we actually close the client while the server is connected to the client, and the server tries to receive a message from the client, it's going to give us an error, and we don't want the server to close as soon as the client is closed. So if we don't receive any message from the client, so when it's closed, we're just going to say the message is just an empty string. And in here we're going to say if the if not length of the message, so if the message length is 0, then what we're going to do is we're going to tell the server that we've actually disconnected. So print address is no longer connected, and we're going to set the client socket variable back to none, so we can now accept more connections coming in, and the address is also going to be none. And we're going to put this inside the else, so Control X. So we're only going to print the message out if there is a message, and if there is no message, then we're going to close the connection. So let's save this, and And let's try this out. So I'm actually going to close this because it's running and reopen the terminal, open a new one, and cd into venv main ls. I'm going to run do pi server. So the server is running. I'm going to connect to it. ls pi client. So we're connected to the server now. Hello. So I was going to say nice. And if I actually try to connect to the server while we're connected to the server through another client, let's see what happens. So venv main and py client. So it's just hanging in limbo. So it's not doing anything. It's just, and the server won't recognize the fact that it's actually another client is actually trying to connect to it, which is something that we can actually implement in the future. If another client is trying to connect, we can let the server know that something is trying to connect to you, but don't give it a connection just yet. But for now, we're gonna ignore that part. So if I say something to the server, it's gonna keep responding to this client here. But if I close this client, it's gonna say this is no longer connected, and a new thing is now connected. So if you go to this tab here, you can see the client that was hanging in limbo is now actually connected to the server. So that's gonna be about it for this video.